It's time for dinner.
Ding dong, ding dong, ding dong.
From the creative mind of Scott Bertelson, after 4 decades of teaching our impressionable youth,
The dinner bell.
you are invited to enjoy conversational morsels for the mind at Mr. B's dinner party.
Yeah, dinner.
Can it be time again? Can it be time again? Oh, yes, it's time again for Mr. B's dinner party.
Mr. B's got a table so wide. Pull up a chair, let your worries slide. School days, tales, and a movie or two. He's serving up wisdom with a side of stew. Belly up to the table, my friend. The feast of thought will never end. From travels far to a spiritual climb, morsels of musing served in rhyme.
I am so hungry. I have a really deep hunger today to talk with my lovely audience. Oh, how much I love being with you and talking with you and communing with you and enjoying being with you. Oh, yes, I do. So anyway, today we are going to go on a spiritual journey. We're going to talk about some of my favorite podcasts. Since my happy colleague Troy has done that, I'm going to creatively borrow his idea. And I'm going to talk about the top films of the 70s, since I've talked about the top music, my 25 top songs of the 70s, as I dive into the past for music and movies. And then I'm going to talk about one of the greatest films of all time, which is reaching its 50th anniversary this summer. And still remember the first time that I saw it. But I'll keep you in suspense until then. So with that, let's put ourselves in a seat and let's put the napkin in our lap and let's get ready for the first entree. Yay!
Let's have a seat round the proverbial table
Would you like to say grace?
with a nod to our higher power and Mr. B's spiritual journey.
For my spiritual journey, and may I say it's always a journey, I'm going to focus on today, one day at a time. That's what I have to live by every single day, one day at a time. I don't have it tomorrow. My yesterday is over. I only have today. So I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. But today, my higher power is guiding me and leading me and helping me make appropriate choices. So I'm going to share some readings with you today of what it's like to live one day at a time. Instead of telling myself to say, oh, I'll never have pizza again, ever. Oh, I'll never have ice cream again. Or, oh, I can never eat pasta again. I just say, today, I choose not to. And it's a lot better not to. And it makes me much healthier and it makes me much saner. So here's a reading. Before I came to OA, God showed me that I hurt my relationships with Him when I ate sweets. I was a glutton and I couldn't eat junk food in moderation. I vowed that I would never eat these harmful substances again. Of course, I couldn't stick to my vow. I made the vow for the right reasons, knowing by then that my weight wasn't the main issue, but I was trying to keep the vow through my own strength. That's the problem, my happy folks, through your own strength. It can't be your strength. We don't have the strength. It's our higher power. Thank God that I realize the reality of steps 1, 2, and 3. I now trust God to do for me what I've never been able to do for myself. I am powerless over food and the rest of my life. Let me say that again, as I many times will emphasize these great statements. I am powerless over food and the rest of my life. That is so true. That is so true. By God's grace, yes, grace, I am able to stay abstinent and live in His will, quote, one day at a time, unquote. Yes, it is God's grace that we stay abstinent just for today. And if we live in His will, then we will not have the burning desire to overeat. And that's what's happened, and that's what's worked for me. Here's another one, my happy friends. I really wanted a recovery from compulsive overeating. I attended meetings, began working the steps, and got a sponsor, but still the gift of abstinence eluded me. I love that phrase, the gift of abstinence. It really is a gift from your higher power. That for the next 24 hours, just for today, one day at a time, I hope you don't get tired of that phrase, you are free of your food obsession if you turn it over to your higher power. I heard, quote, one day at a time, unquote, repeatedly, but my suffering continued. Then one night, my higher power spoke to me about, quote, not worrying about what would happen tomorrow. Why worry about it? Is that going to change anything? I don't think so. Worrying is a sign of self-pity. It's a sign of conceit. It's a sign of trying to control everything, and that's not going to work. That was my first day of abstinence. God took my worry. I received His peace. Now I could understand what living one day at a time truly meant. God, thank you for the gift of today. I am grateful for the freedom, relief, and joy I now feel. Let me repeat that prayer. God, thank you for the gift of just today. I am grateful for the freedom, relief, and joy I now feel. What a beautiful, simple prayer. You can say that anytime, anywhere. The freedom, the relief, the joy. Oh, folks, it's so great to feel that freedom and relief and joy. Here's my third reading. Taking each day as it comes makes my life so much simpler. It eliminates spending precious time looking back or looking ahead. That's where I used to live, folks, in the past or in the future. I never lived for today. Today didn't matter. And so I just binged because I didn't appreciate what I had at the moment. But I would constantly think about, oh, I should have done this, I should have done this, I should have done this, yada, 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 yada. And then I think about the future. What if this happens? What if this happens? What if this happens? Yada, 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 yada. Do you see a pattern here, folks? I hope you do. I would put my emphasis in the wrong place. It should be on right now, the here, the 24 hours I have today. There's no guarantees beyond what I have right now. Not for none of us. No guarantees. So why not make the most of what we have right now? All right. Let's get back to the reading. It eliminates spending precious time looking back or looking ahead. Today is all I have. Making each moment count is a big job. If, with my higher power's help, I do it well, there will be no time for idle projections or useless regrets. That is not to say that I never need to look back or ahead, but that my day does not center on the past or the future. That's the issue, my friend. It does not center on that. So much can be accomplished one moment, 1 hour, 1 day at a time. I try to tackle one task at a time, not 16 like I used to. Taking this attitude gives me the freedom to tackle big and little problems, big or little jobs, big or little pleasures, without getting all tangled up in what ifs or maybes or might have beens. One day at a time, my life, spiritual, emotional, and physical, goes smoothly, no matter what is taking place. One day at a time. The three components of the stool, the three-legged stool, spiritual, emotional, and physical. They all work together. Goes smoothly when we live one day at a time. Oh, my happy friends, as I sit and think about the joy in my life and the happiness in my life and the relief I have from compulsive overeating, I have one more reading to share today about one day at a time. As all our days approach, sometimes my disease convinces me that I can take a break from the discipline of my commitment to the program. I have, I'm deviating from the reading here, but I'm saying I deserve a break. I need to eat like everybody else, like the so-called normies, like the so-called people who have self-moderation. I've earned that, right? Right? Well, that is when I need to remember that I still have some, quote, I love this, fat in my head, unquote. Fat in my head. Recovery is a one day at a time procedure that requires time for clearing away the debris of the past. Getting rid of the debris. Get rid of the trash. Take the trash out. I can do this best by adding more meditation, more meetings, and more service, rather than by taking time off. Once you have committed yourself to this program of abstinence, your freedom from your addiction, there's no need for you to want to take a day off. Why would you do that? Why would you want to have a setback? Why would you want to convince yourself of that? That's your self-will running riot. Or I should say running rampant. Is that what you want? Do you want to have to start all over? Do you want to fall back into that pit of despair? When you can be happy, serene, and joyful? Do more meditations. Go to more meetings. Do more service. That's the greatest gift that you can give yourself. And that's going to help you to be clean. One day at a time.
Sit still. I said, I can't. Something's tickling me. She thought I was crazy. She said, well, open your coat. I unbuttoned my coat and opened it up. There was a mouse.
Stories. Everybody has them. The stories of our parents, grandparents, and our friends remind us who they are.
That's kind of what I think it is, too, is memories. Growing up, my dad was an English teacher.
How they got here, and what they've learned on the way. What if you could collect as many of your loved ones' stories in a high-quality audio format to keep forever? What if you could share the sound of your loved one's voice, their laughter, and their thoughtful manner with your children? Or when you are simply driving to work?
He spent literally 3 months in North Dakota freezing buckets of ice water to make this awesome ice fort that we never spent time in, but it was amazing for the moment it was done.
Well, you can with a Sunny Side of Life biography. Produced here at Sunnyside Farm Studios. I'll sit down with your loved one for 1, 2, or several sessions to record their stories.
I think my students are going to have good memories of me.
You'll receive the full raw recording, an edited selection arranged in audio chapters for easy reference, and produced segments you can use for family gatherings, special moments, or any time you just want to hear your loved one's voice.
And those are probably my most cherished things.
Share it with your family and make it a keepsake, because that's what stories are. Keepsakes of the time we had together.
Never forget that. I was petrified of mice after that forever.
Email your query for more information to Troy at sunnysidefarmstudios.com. The email is also in this show's notes. Let me record your loved one's story so you can share the sunny side of their life in their own words for years to come.
I actually do kind of remember that now.
Okay. Let's say that I'm original. Let's say I'm creative. Okay, we can say that. But now I'm going to steal. I'm taking an idea from my happy producer, Troy Thompson, when he talked a while ago about his favorite podcast. And I thought, what a great idea. Because I love listening to podcasts. I listen to podcasts when I walk in the morning or in the afternoon, or if I'm working around the house, which I need to do more of, when I'm in the car. That's primarily when I listen to podcasts. And it runs It runs a wide range of podcasts that I try to listen to. Now, do I do this daily? Not necessarily. Weekly? Yes. Some of these podcasts are on every day. Some are on a couple times a week. And as opposed to my colleague who listens to more politically oriented podcasts, I don't do that so much. I usually listen more to entertainment type podcasts, and there's many more out there. There's just such a, here we go, plethora. Yay, there's the word, plethora. Ding, 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 ding. Is this like Pee-wee's Playhouse? Anyway. Where'd that come from? Anyway, I got to remember that there's so many that people can choose from. All right, here's the first one. I really like a podcast. This is probably my number one. And it's called The Big Picture. And it's on twice a week. And it's a movie review program. And there are two hosts for the show. And they are really, really talented and very, very gifted when it comes to reviewing movies. And I highly appreciate their opinions. Now, do I run right out to the theater and see these films? Not necessarily. As I've said before, I don't do that quite as much as I used to. But if they really give a film a great recommendation, then I will highly consider it. And The Big Picture talks about latest films. For example, I'm looking at it now, and there's one here on Ballerina, which is a John Wick film that just came out. One on Bring Her Back. They did one on the Shrek films. They did one on Lilo and Stitch. But what they also do on this podcast, The Big Picture, is they have specials. Like they do the 25 best movies of the century. They do the 2000 movie mega draft, where they have 2 or 3 people and they choose what they think are the top films of 2000 or 1999 or 2004. They just simply choose a year. And then that makes me aware of films that maybe I might want to see that I've missed. And it has a lot of humor. Sometimes I will say they use some salty language. Not a large amount, but keep that in mind if you want a young person listening to this. And it's very simple to listen to. Here's one of my favorites. They did one of the Hall of Fame for Paul Newman, one of my favorite actors. They do lots of Hall of Fames. They did one for Val Kilmer, who recently passed away. They've done one for other major movie stars. So it's a wide variety of topics. So I highly suggest you go to Spotify, and you probably can get this on some other podcast platform, and listen to The Big Picture. The Big Picture. Another one that I like is a podcast very similar, and it's called The Rewatchables. The Rewatchables. And this is a movie review program of older films where they choose one film for the podcast and they talk about all the strengths of it. They primarily choose a film that has lived on for a long, long time, very popular with people, has a long lifespan, and then they talk about the highs and lows of that film. And, oh my goodness, There are so many that they review. For example, I'm listening to one right now on the review of Working Girl, which is a film that came out in the 80s with Melanie Griffith. It's a great film. There's so many to choose from that you could look at. Let's see. They've also done horror films. They've done Al Pacino films. They've done just lots of different films. And it's so much fun to listen to them talk about it. They pick their favorite scenes from the film and then they play them. And now with the podcast, they have a visual so you can see the actual clip that they're talking about. You can see the reviewers all sitting at a table. That's also the same case now for The Big Picture. The two hosts of it are visible now. They talk about the reception the film received, how much money it made, what other critics have said about the film. And they also talk about some of the downfalls of the film. For example, if there's something that's not really strong about the film, they will also talk about that. And they give their ideas as to why it has lived for so long. So, there you go, the rewatchables. The next one is somewhat politically oriented. It's called The Don Lemon Show. And I really like Don Lemon. He used to be on cable for many years. He worked for CNN. He used to have a show on at 9 o'clock during the week. And then he was fired from CNN. And now he is doing a podcast. And it seems to have grown in quite a bit of popularity. And he has 2 shows a day. He has one in the morning at 10 o'clock, I think, roughly. And then he does a show at 5 o'clock in the evening. And what essentially he is doing is reviewing what is happening in the world politically. Now, I will have to say that he is rather slanted in his viewpoints. He says that he's not, but I believe that he is, from what I can hear. He's very articulate. He's very bright. He's amazingly talented with his vocal quality, but he does tend to lean left. And he is very, very critical of the Trump administration. And I will just briefly say, and I'm not going to go into great detail because that's not my intent with this podcast, to say that I tend to agree with his viewpoints. And that's why I like listening to him. He has many guests on, political people. They analyze what's happening in the White House, what's happening with the government. They give their viewpoints. And so I find it very entertaining. And when you listen to something that solidifies how you feel, then that's just icing on the cake. And so Don Lemon is somebody I do enjoy listening to. I also like listening to a semi-politically oriented person, and that's Chris Cuomo. Chris Cuomo is on News Nation. He has a weekly show. I think it's on at 7 or 8 p.m. at night. And he used to work for CNN, and then he was fired from CNN. I don't know if there's a pattern here. Anyway, but he has a podcast called the Chris Cuomo Project. And that is on 3 to 4 times a week, where he gives his viewpoints about what's happening in the world of politics. The thing that separates Chris, I believe, from somebody like Don Lemon is that he does not necessarily take sides. He simply reports what's happening and gives his feelings as to why that's happening. He is not necessarily Republican. He is not necessarily a Democrat, a libertarian, whatever title you want to put on him. He is not. I guess he would be more classified as an independent. And he has such a way with language and so articulate like Don Lemon and so smart, and he's so intelligent that I really try to once or twice a week listen to what he's got to say. For example, as I'm looking at his site right now, his latest one is on Chris Cuomo breaks down why the protests in Los Angeles are a manufactured crisis that serves President Trump's political agenda. Okay, so he is commenting about that. Here's one. Chris Cuomo breaks down why President Trump's new budget reconciliation bill, officially called the One Big Beautiful Bill, could become the defending issue of the midterms. While Republicans frame the legislation as a path to tax relief and fiscal discipline, Cuomo argues it adds trillions to the debt and deficit. So there's always a little explanation that you can look at to decide if you want to listen to that podcast or not. So those are my two political go-tos that I have chosen to listen to once or twice a week. Sometimes it's a little overwhelming, too slanted for Don Lemon, and then I don't listen for a while. But again, he has a right to whatever he wants to present on his podcast, as I do on mine. So that's what's going on there. I also enjoy a podcast called OA, and that stands for Overeaters Anonymous, where people give their testimony of what it's like, where they were at, what it's like, and where they are now with their abstinence. And I find such strength in listening to other people's stories and their journeys and listening to what it was like for them and how it's changed for them. And every time I listen to a person's story, I can see so many parts of myself in that story. It is truly amazing, which just solidifies for me how we are all in this together, and we all share a common disease, disease of the mind and an allergy of the body. And so I try to listen to that at least once or twice a week, if I can. Okay, I have a guilty pleasure. There's lots of comedians that I like. My favorite comedian of all time, of course, was the famous Joan Rivers, and she will always be the top of my list. But here's one that I find very, very funny, and that would be Chelsea Handler. Chelsea Handler used to have a talk show on E! A number of years ago. She's a stand-up comedian. She's written books. She's directed films. She's a brilliant comedian. And Chelsea Handler has this podcast called Dear Chelsea. And she has guests on the program. But primarily what the focus of the program is, people send her letters and emails and texts wanting advice. Primarily relationship advice. And it is so funny. She's got a co-host on the show, and sometimes they talk to the actual person who's asking the question. And questions about, should I stay with my boyfriend? Should I break up with my boyfriend? Is my spouse cheating? I don't understand what's going on with my spouse. Lots of different issues, whether it's a marital situation or a boyfriend-girlfriend situation. And Chelsea usually gives what I think very, very sound advice, even though she's, I don't believe, ever been married, not that that's right or wrong, and has had tumultuous relationships in her life. Maybe that gives her the motivation and the right to be a host of this program. I'm not sure. But I find her advice very, very exciting to listen to, enriching, and always a flair of humor. And of course, she does a lot of self-publicity for her books and her concerts, and she performs regularly in Vegas and things like that. So anyway, Chelsea Handler, if you want something light, frivolous to listen to, that would be one. I've got a couple more. I also like to listen to Morning Joe. That's my third somewhat politically oriented podcast. Morning Joe is on MSNBC, weekdays, I believe from 5 until 8 or 5 until 9 a.m. Joe and Mika, Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski are married, and they have been long-term co-hosts on this show, and they have many guests on there. Now, again, my friends, this is somewhat slanted left, as I believe MSNBC is slanted left politically. But I enjoy listening to their analysis of what's happening in politics, especially when most of the time I agree with what they're saying. They have a wide variety of guests. Willie Geist is also on the show, who I really, really enjoy. And they always have a wide variety of commentators on the show. So I would suggest that. And my last one, even though I have more, would be the Oprah podcast. Oprah Winfrey. Oh, yes. I just recently saw Oprah on the Tony Awards. She did a great job. But anyway, Oprah has a podcast, and she has wonderfully talented people on as guests, people who have written books, people in film, people on television, people in politics. It's usually a very serious discussion about things. For example, here's one. She interviews Wally Lamb, who's just written a new book called The River is Waiting. Here's one that she's done one on menopause. Let's see. Here's one on how to be happy in your life. Just lots of soul-searching topics. She interviews Tina Knowles.
Hi there. So glad to be with you here on the
Sorry, there's Oprah. Interviews Beyonce's mother, Maria Shriver. She really likes to focus on books and interview the authors of the books. So I would highly suggest that you think about the Oprah podcast. It's not like her daily show. It's only on once a week. But Oprah, as we know, gave up her TV show years ago, and she's still going strong. So I still like listening to her. I still think that she monopolizes the conversation, but that's okay. She's an icon. And so I still find it enjoyable to listen to her. So that's just a few of the podcasts that I like, folks. You have to decide for yourself with all the billions out there to listen to. And thank goodness that you're still taking the time to listen to Mr. B's Dinner Party, because I like talking to you.
For the next course, come one, come all. Nothing spoiled here. From comfort classics to what's hot now. Film reviews from Mr. B's Rewatchables.
So are you ready for a blast from the past? We've looked at some of the top contemporary songs of the 70s, my top 25. Maybe you agree, maybe you disagree. Well, let's look at some of the top films. I'm not even going to put a number on it. I'm just going to mention them that I think you should see, whether you stream them or watch them on cable or rent them or buy them, whatever it would be. All right, in no necessarily important order. 1975, The Rocky Horror Picture Show, one of the strangest films of all time. A blend of music and horror and complete lunacy. When it came out, it was a complete failure, and then it hit the midnight movie circuit, and people started dressing like the character, Frankenfurter and Riff Raff and the monster and all of that. It's a takeoff on Frankenstein's story. So it's got great songs. The Time Warp. I've even been to in my life a couple midnight showings of it. I think they still do it occasionally. You can probably catch that on cable sometime. The Rocky Horror Picture Show. Of course, Saturday Night Fever, which I reviewed. It is classic, amazing. Never, ever want to estimate that. Amazing, amazing film. Let's see. Let's go with Annie Hall. Love, love, love Annie Hall. That's a Woody Allen film. I think it won Best Picture in 1977, the year that I graduated. And also has Diane Keaton, one of my favorite actresses. It's somewhat of a semi-autobiographical account of their relationship. They actually dated for a while. And so I would highly suggest that you see that great film if you get a chance. Let's see. There's so many to choose from. Let's keep going here. And I've already reviewed this one, but I got to mention it. 1974, Young Frankenstein. Oh my gosh. I just recently saw on Facebook that Mel Brooks, I think he's 99 years old, is going to be doing next year, if I have this correct, a sequel to Spaceballs, which is a parody of Star Wars. So anyway, in 74, he directed this parody of the Frankenstein film, and absolutely amazing film. So funny, I thought I was going to die of laughter. So I suggest that you see that. Another one, of course, would be Network, the 1976 film, which is a parody of what's happening in TV news at that time. Very unnerving film, very sad film. Next would be The Deer Hunter, came out in 1978. Has Robert De Niro in it, Christopher Walken, John Savage. Talks about prisoners of the Vietnam War who come back to their hometown and what they have to live with, the memories. Very, very intense film that shows them as prisoners and how they play Russian roulette with them. Absolutely devastating. Really hard to watch. Another one would be Life of Brian. Oh, yes, Life of Brian, 1979. This is a Monty Python film. Monty Python is a comedy troupe from England, and they used to have a show called Monty Python's Flying Circus. And they had a number of films. This one is somewhat a parody of the Jesus Christ story about Brian, one of the members of the troupe, who's born in a stable in Jerusalem right next to the one where Jesus Christ was born. I'm not making fun of the religious story. I'm not at all. But anyway, there's a famous scene at the end where they're all on the crosses and they're singing, "Always Look on the Bright Side of Life." And of course, that was that song was also in Spamalot. So wanted to mention that. Another one would be National Lampoon's Animal House, 1978. That was the big screen debut of John Belushi, about a fraternity that does some really interesting things on a college campus. They're hard drinking, kind of filthy people in this Delta House fraternity, and how the other fraternities deal with them. It's also an early film for Kevin Bacon, and he plays a hilarious part in this film. Another one is Badlands. This came out in 1971. This is based on a true story of this man who, so to speak, kidnaps his 14-year-old girlfriend, and he go on a killing spree that left 10 dead, kind of like Bonnie and Clyde. And Martin Sheen is the main character, and Sissy Spacek is in it. And it's a devastatingly difficult film to watch, but so powerful that I suggest that you see it. Another one, of course, is the classic Where Were You in '62? American Graffiti, which came out in 1973. American Graffiti. Francis Ford Coppola, George Lucas, about a group of teenagers on one night, on the cusp of, do they leave this town or do they stay? And I love that film. Oh, let's see. There's also the film Carnal Knowledge, which came out in 1971 with Jack Nicholson and Anne Margaret and Candice Bergen and Art Garfunkel of Simon and Garfunkel fame. Jack and Garfunkel played college chums who liked being around women and proved their sexual strength, and covers their life for the next few decades to see how their lives improve or how they become worse with their relationship with women. So I would suggest that one if you get a chance. And let's see, I have more. I said I had more, and I do have more. How about Close Encounters of the Third Kind? I believe it came out in 1978. Richard Dreyfuss stars in it, and it's a Steven Spielberg film, and it had amazing special effects for its time, and talks about the belief, is there life out there? And very compelling story, great motion picture, as most of Steven Spielberg's films are. Of course, then there's Taxi Driver, the Robert De Niro film about the mentally unstable cab driver who wants to start a protest against society. That is a Martin Scorsese film, amazing film. Then, of course, you have the first Rocky with Sylvester Stallone, amazing story of an underdog who achieves what he needs to. Let's see, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, 1975. Jack Nicholson film about a guy in a mental institution and how he fights the system, but unfortunately, it doesn't work out for him. 1973, I've got two more. One of my favorite horror films of all time, and I've reviewed it. That would be The Exorcist, 1973. A film that still stands strong today. Amazing story, amazing acting, amazing special effects. Difficult to watch at times, as I've said for some of these films, but still an amazing film. And the last one I'm going to mention is The Last Picture Show. in 1971. And the Last Picture Show is about a really small town in Texas, and the students graduating there, and then where they go off in their life. And some achieve happiness and some do not. And it has Sybil Shepherd in it and Jeff Bridges. I would really recommend that. Now, my folks, there are lots and lots of other films of the 70s. It was a great time for cinema. But that's what I would give you right now as my list. And maybe I'll do a part 2 sometime. We'll see. But don't ever underestimate the power of cinema in the 1970s. It was the best of times. All right, friends. For my film review, there was one film that I didn't mention as I gave my so-called top films of the 70s. And that would be the 1975 American thriller film, which is celebrating its 50th anniversary. Oh my gosh, am I old? Jaws. Da-da, 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 da-da. Can we ever forget that music? Oh my goodness. Jaws. Still today, a classic film directed by a young Steven Spielberg. It catapulted his career as a director. And it's enjoying a resurgence of popularity. I remember going to the movie in Mason City. We were all so excited to see Jaws at the Park 70 Theater. Anybody out there remember the Park 70 Theater? Oh my gosh. It was a great place. Anyway, and then we would go see it almost every week because it ran for weeks. At that time, a movie would run in a theater for quite some time because it didn't move to video on demand or cable. We didn't have it. So there's nothing like seeing Jaws on a big, big screen. And I'm probably preaching to the choir out there because most of you have probably seen it. It's based on a novel, 74 novel by Peter Benchley, and it stars Roy Scheider as a police chief, Martin Brody, who, with the help of a marine biologist played by Richard Dreyfuss and a professional shark hunter played by Robert Shaw.
I'll catch this bird for you, but it ain't gonna be easy. It's bad fish. Not like going down the pond chasing bluegills or tommycods. This shark, swallow you whole. A little shaking, a little tenderizing, down you go. And we gotta do it quick. That'll bring back the tourists. That'll put all your businesses on a paying basis.
They hunt down a man-eating great white that's been attacking beachgoers at a summer resort town. Murray Hamilton plays the mayor, and Lorraine Gary plays Brody's wife. It was shot in Martha's Vineyard in Massachusetts. It was the first major motion picture to be shot on the ocean. It went over budget, had a troubled production. They thought it was going to be a flop, and then it became one of the greatest films of all time. It had the greatest score by John Williams, who did the score for so many films. Close Encounters, Indiana Jones films. It is the summer blockbuster that won several awards for its editing and music. It was the highest grossing film of all time until, of course, Star Wars came 2 years later. And it was re-released in theaters many times. And the story is the great story of how do you convince the mayor of your town during the summer where all the tourists are coming in and you want all the money from these tourists coming in. How do you have them come in when they're going to be dinner for this great white shark? And so the sheriff is trying to convince everybody that they've got to get rid of this great white shark. And the mayor is saying, oh, it's nothing for us to worry about. And in the meantime, people are dying and being killed. And so then they find this local shark hunter who offers his services for $10,000. And Richard Dreyfuss, Shaw, and Roy Schreider go out on the ocean, and they do take care of the shark. And the pursuing of the shark is an amazing, amazing adventure. There is so much suspense in this film. I still remember to this day when I saw the film for the first time, when I was in the theater and they were underwater and they were investigating a boat that had been destroyed by the shark, and they're underwater, and I think it was Richard Dreyfuss looks in the hole of this boat, and this head pops out, which is one of the people who were on the boat. And I jumped probably 50 feet in the air. It was an amazing moment. And you rarely see the shark in this film. That's the beauty of it. You don't see the shark at all for the first half of the film. You see it from the shark's perspective, or you just see a fin, or you see the outline of the shark. Now, you've got to remember in 1975 that they had a mechanical shark, and there were things that they couldn't do then with CGI that they can now. And so when you actually see the shark, by today's standards, it's maybe not realistically looking like a real shark. But at that time, it worked. And so they had a number of different sharks prototypes that they worked with on this film. So my favorite line is when they're out on the water, Roy and Richard and Robert Shaw and Roy Schreider is throwing fish into the water to try to attract the shark, and the shark rears its ugly head, and he stands up and he says,
"You're going to need a bigger boat."
And that's one of the famous lines. I think we're going to need a bigger boat. And so then a large part of the film is the three of them being pursued by the shark on open waters, and they're pursuing the shark.
Sometimes that shark, he looks right into you, right into your eyes. You know the thing about a shark, he's got lifeless eyes, black eyes, like a doll's eyes. When he comes at you, he doesn't seem to be living until he bites you, and those black eyes roll over white, and then you hear that terrible high-pitched screaming.
You can probably guess that they do overcome this monstrosity, and it's a wonderfully exciting adventure that I really think people of all ages see. It is not a bloody film. It's not full of gore. It's just a wonderfully crafted film. And so see the movie Jaws. It made $476.5 million at the box office, and it was made on a budget of $9 million. That's a lot of profit. So you might want to think about taking time in your life, if you've never seen it, to see the original Jaws. Now, I know there was a Jaws 2, and a Jaws 3, and a Jaws 4, and there's been so many different shark films over the years, but I don't think anything matches the excitement of the original Jaws. Please take the time to celebrate the 50th anniversary of one of the greatest films of all time, Jaws. Okay, folks, well, it's time to go. We looked at some movies of the 70s. I told you why you should see Jaws. I gave you some of my favorite podcasts. Thank you, Troy, for the idea. And I talked about how you should live one day at a time. I guess I'll come back. And maybe I'll bring more information about films or TV or my spiritual journey or maybe a pet peeve or a school remembrance. Or maybe I'll share some poetry. Who knows? I will be back. And until we meet again, thanks for sitting at the dinner table. And thanks for putting your dishes in the sink. Okay, until we meet again. Bye-bye, folks. Bye-bye.
Television dramas and comedic reviews, pet peeves buzzing like honeydew blues, poetry sprinkled like salt on a dish, every word served with a twist and a swish. Belly up to the table, my friend. The feast of thought will never end, from travels far to a spiritual climb. Morsels of musing served in rhyme.
Mr. B's Dinner Party is hosted by Scott Bertelson, edited and produced by Troy Thompson, recorded and distributed at Sunnyside Farm Studios, and platformed by Buzzsprout.
Conversations flowing like fine red wine, world journeys mapped with tales divine. He's hosting a dinner for your hungry mind, a banquet of life where you can unwind. Belly up to the table, my friend. The feast of thought will never end, from travels far to a spiritual climb. Morsels of musings served in rhyme.
Subscribe so you never miss an episode, and share with your friends. Listen and enjoy every other Wednesday. Conversational morsels for the mind on Mr. B's Dinner Party.